Can we just get a close-up of this fucking makeup? Oh yeah. If I was a boy, this is what it would be. Hello cupcakes and welcome back to my channel. If you're watching this the day this is scheduled for, it is actually my 34th birthday, and because of that I decided I was going to put on my favorite sweater, put on a little bit of sparkly makeup, and give you guys a video on 5 of the most memorable conversations I've had in my many years as a woman in trades. And instead of me just reading off the conversations like I have in the past few, I decided to play a little dress up and give you both roles. So without further ado, let's get into the first one. I'm gonna call this one Know Your Place. And this was a conversation that took place several years ago when I was working out west. This guy went out of his way to make my life miserable. He would constantly berate me. He would make sure that he had an audience for it. So it would be when we were out in like the smoke pit or the lunchroom or when there's a bunch of us working together. Like he literally just went out of his way to try to belittle me and make me feel like shit, and it worked. I ended up actually leaving that job because of this guy. So let's get into one of my favorite conversations I've had with him. Women's roles are simple. Cook, clean, make sure the dishes are done, change the channel on TV when I tell you to, make coffee without me having to tell you to. You should also be mowing the lawn and making sure you shovel the snow. You know, taking care of the house. There's really only one reason to get married, and it's to make sure that you have somebody to do this stuff for you. You learning anything?
I don't mind cooking and cleaning, but that's not my job.
You're dead wrong. You're just an apprentice.
I'm a journeyman too.
You'll forever be an apprentice. Don't let that piece of paper tell you otherwise. Women like you are what's wrong with this world today. You went and ruined a good thing, and women just don't know their place anymore. You're just like my stupid bitch sister-in-law. Fucking ruined my life, man. Teaching my wife she doesn't need to cater to my every whim. Telling her she doesn't need to get up and change the channel for me on the TV. She doesn't need to have my coffee made when I tell her to, or without being told to. My daughter's gonna know better. Alright, conversation number 2. Let's call this one, Don't Be So Emotional. So this happened in my mining career. Super well-meaning upper management that I've worked with for several years. As a general rule, I have a ton of respect for this guy, but this was one of the few conversations with him that had me just bewildered. So what do you think you need to be more successful in your role?
I think having a dedicated scheduler would actually free up a ton of my time so I can focus more on the long-term planning. If we could scoop up Annie for scheduling, we'd be laughing.
No. I can't have too many women working together. They're too emotional.
We're emotional? With all due respect, I've worked with a lot of men that are a lot more emotional than the women I've worked with.
Okay, fine. I don't want too many perspectives, which is what happens when you have too many women working together. And I've worked with a lot of women who say they'd rather work with men than women too, so you can't get mad at me for saying it. Plus, I hire women, so it's not like I'm being rude.
I just heard about Bill getting fired. What happened?
Oh yeah, he got into a scrap with Dan. You didn't like the radio station Dan was playing in the shop, so they ended up getting in a fist fight over it.
Oh, how rational and unemotional of them.
Yeah. Alright, and conversation number 3. Let's call this one Get a Bigger Hammer. This was fairly recent. This is one of the newer guys that was working on site. I don't work with him. He's in a different department, but we ended up running into each other like outside in the smoke pit, and I don't know if this was just his like awkward attempt at having a conversation with a woman. I can't even say that this is the only time that I've had talks like this. I've heard shit like this for sure on a bunch of different jobs I've been on, but let's get into Get a Bigger Hammer. Yeah, there were some women in my old job too.
Oh, nice. It's always dope to hear there's more women doing trades.
Yeah, but the girl that they sent to me wasn't cut out for it at all. Tiny little thing. She couldn't lift what we needed to lift. She definitely couldn't hang with the boys, so I had to teach her a lesson.
You what? What do you mean you had to teach her a lesson?
Well, you know, our job's fucking labor intensive. Like, you gotta be able to lift stuff, you know, bro? So anyway, she came in, she thought she could do the same job. I ended up having to show her, you can lift what we can lift. You can't do what we can do. Sit down, sweetheart. So I sent her to take out this axle with a sledgehammer, knowing she couldn't swing it. She couldn't. You know, we had to go do it for her, show her what's up, but she tried. Her welds were all right, but she needed to know that this is how we do the jobs. This is how we need to do the jobs. You need to be strong to be able to fucking fit in.
The only way you could do your weld repairs was by swinging a heavy hammer to get your part out? Why?
Well, I mean, I guess you could do it a different way, but like, we have to be fast, and that's the easiest way. Can't make it work? Get a bigger hammer. So that's what we do.
Oh, okay. Makes perfect sense. She was super lucky you were there.
She was alright for climbing into the small spots though that we didn't want to get into. Know what I'm saying?
So this fourth conversation is probably the most shocking thing that's ever happened to me on a job site. Like, I've had some weirdos, I've had some interesting conversations, but this rumor that was started about me is hands down the one and only time I've heard this particular rumor, and hopefully the one and only time I ever will. We're gonna call this segment Turn Up the Heat. So I heard about that rumor the management started when I was on the tools about me being a trans woman so the guys would leave me alone. It's really fucked up, man. Were you here for it?
Yeah, I remember that. They sat us down after a toolbox and said, Kevin was starting next week. Might look like a girl, but used to be a guy. Super sensitive about it, so don't bring it up. But just to give us a heads up, there's going to be this girl named Kevin starting with us.
Didn't they think that was an odd story to tell? And like, wouldn't I have changed my name to something not Kev? Like Angel, Diamond, Princess, anything?
Well, I mean, we figured out pretty quick it was a lie. You remember when you got sent down to the shop with Steve? Okay, well, he told us, give me 3 hours, we'll know for sure one way or another if it's a lie or not. He said he was going to crank the heat so that there was no way you'd be able to handle working in there with all your gear on.
I just assumed it was sweltering so that we could cure the epoxy.
No, I mean, you need the heat, but definitely not that much. I did end up showing up. I don't know if you remember, but you were working like a dog, and we knew for sure you weren't a dude because you'd had to strip down out of your bibs and your jacket while you were working.
Lovely. And this final conversation we are going to call PPE. This, hands down, was the grossest man I've ever worked with for so many different reasons, but this conversation is just a little glimpse into the world that was my dirty partner. So this is going to be a bit uncomfortable, but I've been getting a lot of complaints from people about your hygiene and mostly about you not washing your hands when you go to the washroom.
Well, you don't have to wash your hands if you're wearing gloves.
You wear your gloves while you take a piss.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to waste time washing your hands when you're done. If you wear your gloves, your hand's not touching your dick.
There are 3 of us that you use that truck. You're telling me that you wipe your dick gloves all over the steering wheel and touch the controls? We share tools, man.
I don't know why you're being so weird about this. Humans aren't meant to bathe every day or even every week. It's just not natural.
You're referring to several hundred years ago when we didn't have things like soap and shampoo and body wash. Antibacterial wasn't even a thing. The times changed a bit since then.
I also think it's ridiculous that they don't let me bring my guns to camp.
Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it. I am going to try to get better about shorter goodbyes. We have this like running joke in my family. We call it the Edgington goodbye, and it's because, especially on like my side, we take forever to say goodbye. It'll maybe be 10 minutes trying to get out of the door with like other conversations that come up, saying goodbye. My grandfather always used to joke about it being like the long-winded Edgington goodbye, and I definitely do that on here too. So I'm going to cut this one off nice and quickly. no more Edgington goodbyes on cupcakes and crankshafts. I want to thank you for your time today. If you like this one, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Trying to get more consistent about getting videos out to you guys. Any comments, questions, any feedback, drop it down below. I hope you had a wonderful week behind you. I hope your week coming up is fucking fantastic. And as always, don't forget to be a cupcake in a world full of muffins, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye!